So how to add contactors onto your avatar. So how to add contactors to your avatar. First what we're going to do is I'm going to add a contactor here to the end of the nose. So whenever someone goes to touch the schnoot, uh, I'll play an animation for that. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down here from the avatar in the hierarchy. Go to armature, hips, and I'm just going to go down till I get to the head here. And I'm going to look for nose. Just one closest to the end of the nose here, or closest to center, and I'm just going to go nose end here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click add component, and I'm going to type in contact, and you should see VRC contact receiver. I'm going to click that, and I'm going to change the radius down to usually, yeah, you know what, I'll do 0.0002. Usually it's a very small radius you want. Again, just mess with that, figure out what works best for whatever you're trying to have it contact with. So again, anything in this sphere here that comes in contact with what I'll show you later, the receiver, anytime that comes in contact with this sphere here, it'll then send out a message and play the animation. And then here we can turn on allow self, others, or local only. Self is you yourself can interact with it. Allow others, again, you can allow others to interact with it. So next what we'll do is we'll add a collision tag. And now you can choose from any of these here, also allowing custom. So what you can do is have, for custom, you can have on someone else's avatar the same variable here, or because this will line up with the animator here, so you can have a separate parameter in here that someone else can have on their other avatar, so only they can interact with that contactor here. But for now, I'm just going to have it so whenever touching finger, meaning if any of these fingers go to touch this contactor, it will then send out that parameter. And you also have a choice of constant on enter and proximity. Constant allows for as soon as it comes in contact with that parameter, it will set that variable to 1, and if it's not touching, it will set it to 0. On enter, it will set that parameter to 1 for 1 frame of it being in contact. And proximity is it will change anywhere from 0 to 0.1 the closer it gets and the further it gets. It'll change that integer or float from 0 to 0.1 the closer or further it gets. So for now, we're just going to leave that proximity, so then when it comes in contact, it'll change it to 1. So I'm going to name it, we'll name it boop for now. I'm going to copy that, so later I can paste that into the animator. So now we have everything set up here for the receiving end of the contactor. Now I'm going to create a test over here by doing 3D object, sphere. I am going to scale this down a bit. And what we're going to do is then go to contact, VRC contact sender, and I'm going to leave this at what is given for the radius. And again, I'm going to add a contactor and making sure it is finger lining up with the other contactor. Since this contactor up here only receives from the finger, I'm going to also have it so this is a finger tag. So now what I am going to do is I'm going to go over here, go to the FX layer, and I am also, to test this, going to drag in the FX layer up here to the controller of the avatar. So now I go in here, I can see all the layers and parameters. So I'm now going to add a new layer, name it boop, create new state, empty, create another new state, empty. And before I go any further, I'm going to go over here to parameters. And you have a choice between making this an integer or float, but for now I'm just going to do integer and name it, making sure boop, the same one as we had in the nose contactor. And what we'll do is then also change the weight to 1, make a transition over to state 0 and then back. Over here I am going to change the exit time to 0, transition duration to 0, uncheck this, and add a new condition. Scroll down here to boop. we'll have it so when it equals 1, it will transition over here to this animation, which we'll have to create. Going back, we're going to change this to 0, 0 exit time, and then having it so boop equals 0, it'll transition back to no animation playing. So the sending contactor touches the receiving contactor, it will send out that variable to 1, making this transition over to play our animation here. And then when that contactor is no longer touching the receiving end, it will change that variable to 0, meaning it'll go back to playing no animation and stop playing this animation here. For now, I'm just going to actually use an already existing animation here. I'm just going to use a facial expression, so I'll do angry, very angry eyes. We'll see. We'll do that. So it'll play this animation, angry. So it'll play this animation when that contactor is touching the receiving end of the contactor. And now this should work. And how you will test this, before I like to test things, I like to save, just in case it seems to crash whenever playing the game. So we're gonna press play to test it, and go over here to scene. Another thing I like to do is I like to bring the animator down over here, so I can see what's going on in the parameters. So I'm gonna take our sender contactor and drag it to where it touches the nose. So as you can see, this sender is touching the receiving end of that contactor, which then changes the boop parameter to 1, meaning it transitions over to that animation there, and then once I drag it away, it goes back to new state or idle, so it doesn't play any animation, and it will not play the animation anymore. So this is a way to test it out, and if it works, that is all you need to do. So that is how you create contacts for avatars. Hope you enjoyed.